Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a review and discussion of The House of the Four Winds by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. This is book one of a series. Let me get that to where you can see it, okay? Let me give you the specs. This is book one of the 12 Daughters series. And let's see, the copyright was 2014, so it's been a hot minute since this was published. Even though it's been a little while, I'm going to be careful not to give away too many spoilers, okay? Because this was a really good story. It was really good, so I want to recommend it to you guys to read. So I don't want to give away everything and cause you to not read it. Okay, hard. Let's see, published by Tor Books. It is 300 pages. It's written in third-person point of view, past tense, which is my jam. And it is entirely from the main character's point of view. Clarice is our main character. She is a princess from the kingdom of Swansgard, but she's masquerading as a young gentleman. So she goes by the name of Clarence Swan. She's pretending to be a young gentleman so that she can move about in society more easily. And she's pretending that she's going to become, or she wants to become, a sword master. She wants to train others in sword fighting and fencing, that kind of thing. She wants to train people in this. So she believes she needs to go out and make her reputation as a swords master so that she can get students to believe in her and come pay her to train in swordsmanship. So she's going off on adventures to earn her reputation as a swordmaster. Okay, that's the point. That's why she's going off on an adventure. That's the basis for our story. I guess I just gave you the Sandy synopsis. All right, but let me read for you the inside flap. That's sort of my synopsis of the story, and here we go. Let's see. The tiny nation of Swansgard is a lovely place with abundant natural resources, including the royal family, which has been blessed with 12 daughters and a son. As this boisterous baker's dozen approaches adulthood, the king and queen lovingly tell their daughters, "You must make your own fortune, for we cannot enrich you without impoverishing our people or leaving our lands defenseless, and that we will not do." Happily, the princesses of Swansgard are eager to meet this challenge, for they yearn for adventures both near and far from home. Clarice, an expert swordswoman, is the first to depart. Disguising herself as Clarence, she signs on for a voyage to the New World. The captain is vile and black-hearted, and the crew soon mutinies. Clarice becomes first mate and finds her heart captured by the new captain, Dominic, who is, to his own surprise, increasingly attracted to Clarence. Now outlaws, Dominic and his crew turn to piracy, though their hearts are not entirely in it. They soon run afoul of the pirate council, who orders them to retrieve the Heart of Light. All who have searched for this great treasure have vanished, with neither ships nor crews ever seen again, and no sign of their fates ever discovered. But none before have carried with them the sorceress Shamal, who stakes a claim of her own on Dominic's heart. Okay. Okay. The inside flap gave a bit more than I thought it was going to. All right, so my synopsis kind of shortened that. I didn't want to give away as much as the front cover flap just did. All right, so let's dive in. This story is sort of split into two stories, and the cover flap kind of told us that. Clarence. All right, let me see. First half, we have he goes sailing, then there's a mutiny, and then they get to Dorado, which is where this pirate council thing happens, okay? The second half is we're at Dorado, and there's the House of the Four Winds, which is where this pirate council meets. And at the House of the Four Winds, this sorceress Shamal puts a spell over Dominic, where he can still act of his own free will when she's not activating that spell, okay? But when she activates the spell, he has to basically do whatever she's telling him to do. It's not nice. It's not good. And the quest for this treasure that Shamal wants begins there at the House of the Four Winds. So they have to go on this quest to get that Heart of Light. The mutiny that is mentioned on that front cover me start that over. The mutiny that is mentioned on that cover flap, that happens like early on in the book. What I've got it marked first on page 82, 83, right in there is where this mutiny happens. That mutiny happens because the captain is just so vile, and he has a few like henchmen that are on board with him. These people who come with him on board. Think of it like the Dread Pirate Roberts, okay? In Princess Bride, you have the Dread Pirate Roberts, and he has his crew. But when he decides he wants to, give up being the Dread Pirate Roberts, he goes to a port, gets rid of his crew. Okay, so no one knows who he is, and he only has one person on his crew, his first mate, who really knows who he is, and so they switch roles. Okay, so that only one person knows who the new Dread Pirate Roberts is. Okay, it's like that, but with an evil captain. Okay, so we've got this evil captain, I think it was Sprunk. So we've got this evil captain who only has a few henchmen who really know how vile he is. Okay, and the rest of the crew is new people. There's like 80 people aboard this ship, 60 to 80 people getting this ship to sail. And they don't know how evil and awful this guy is, but there's so much animosity and aggression and just evilness that this captain spews and causes to happen, so much division that he creates among this crew that they mutiny. He causes the mutiny to happen. It's well put together. Okay, let me just put it that way. It is well played, but he causes the mutiny to arise, and it does. And so these people, they're fighting it one night, and Clarice, who is in her cabin, she hears, the ring of steel, right? She hears this happening up above, and she's like, oh crap, the mutiny is finally happening. This is happening. So she jumps up and she puts on like the corset that binds her chest so that she doesn't look ladylike. She puts on this corset and she throws on her jacket and she runs up there to fight as well. So she's got her rapier, she's got her sword, and she does see that the captain and Dominic, this gentleman who is her friend, and she's kind of falling in love with this gentleman. They're battling together, and Dominic is about to die. So she jumps in. Clarice's feet skidded on the deck as she sprang into the little space between them. Sprunt sprang backward as she drew her sword. This is not your fight, Swan, he shouted. Or do you cast your lot with the mutineers? I have no choice, Clarice thought. Shut up and fight, she snarled, lashing out at him with her sword. Now keep in mind, no one knows that she's a she. They all think she's a he. But we, the reader, we know better, okay? Right. I have no choice, Clarice thought. Shut up and fight, she snarled, lashing out at him with her sword. He laughed, a wordless shout of rage, and raised his own blade. The world narrowed to the clash of blades. Sprunt had strength and reach and the heavier blade. Clarice dared not block his attacks directly, for she risked her rapier being broken by the bludgeoning weight of the heavier blade. But she had speed and skill, a skill honed by a master swordsman over her whole life. And not just any master, but one who had taught the skills of the street brawler along with those of court fencing, and the means of countering the former with the latter. Okay, so you're kind of getting a feel there for the author's writing style and how we're going to go through battles and such in this book. But she does manage to get the upper hand. She kills the captain. Clarice does it. Clarice is the one who solves this mutiny for us. Okay, so on the next page we see Sprunt crashed to his knees and fell forward, a look of astonishment still on his face. She looked around wildly as the night was split by the roar of the musket. Captain Sprunt is dead, she heard someone shout. The ship is ours. Throw down your weapons and you will not be harmed. So I am a mutineer now, Clarice thought numbly. Whatever shall I tell Mama and Papa? All around her, from every corner of the captured ship, sailors began to cheer. Okay, and so after that, the folks who are still alive, the mutineers aboard the ship, they have to decide who's going to be their captain. And they decide to vote on who will be their captain. And Clarice realizes the only people who vote for a captain are pirates. So I'm not just a mutineer, I'm a pirate now. But she also notices one of the crew members who was devoted to or had an allegiance to the captain, one of the bad guys. He is pilfering through the captain's clothing before the captain is like thrown over, right? He's pilfering, and she's like, what are you up to? Reverend, what are you doing? He's like, oh, nothing at all. And so Clarice takes off of the captain's body this medallion, this talisman the captain had been wearing. So Clarice takes this and she pockets it herself. So she's got this thing. That thing becomes extremely important. That thing, in fact, is something that buys their way onto this pirate council, or into this pirate council, when they get to Dorado, when they finally get there. And it turns out that Shamal, the sorceress, she wants more of those medallions. She wants to make more. The only way to make more is to get that heart of light, this treasure, this heart of light treasure. She needs that treasure to make more of those medallions, and for other purposes as well. So Shamal, the sorceress, is really into getting that. She needs people aboard the Ascencio. She needs people aboard this ship. I'm not going to go into too much of that. There are attributes these people have that she requires to get the heart of light. There's just reasons behind that I won't spoil for you. But Shamal she's a naughty sorceress. They're at that pirate council in Dorado. Shamal, the sorceress, we learned on the front cover flap, she stakes a claim to Dominic. And the way she does that is so well described on page 185 that I wanted to read that little piece for you as well. So we have Dominic and Clarence. They have gone to this pirate council. They've been summoned there. They don't really have a choice. They kind of got to go. So they're at this little pirate council, and they've had to tell their story, how they got there, etc. Shamal comes out of the shadows. And I don't want to give too much. I don't want to tell too much. But she comes out of the shadows, and she ends up putting a spell over Dominic. Dominic had turned toward Shamal as she spoke. She swayed toward him with a cat-footed tread, and as she came, she teased one of the necklaces about her throat loose from its fellows and flung it into the air. Automatically, both Dominic and Clarice looked upward. The necklace was a delicate thing of beads, blazing bright and sharp with sorcery. It should not have been able to pass over Dominic's head as neatly as a lariat's loop, but it did. He should have been able to tear it off again or break the slender strand, and he could not. It was as if his fingers passed through the beads as he clawed at them. The circlet of green stone beads slowly turned red, as if they drank his life's blood. And it's those necklaces that Shamal has around her neck that she can fling one, and it's casting a spell. As she casts the necklace, it casts a spell onto whatever it lands on or whatever it touches. In this case, it goes around Dominic's neck, and it's like a noose. That lariat's loop, so nicely named, right? I mean, it's very well done, very well written. Lots of stuff in here was very well written. I can highly recommend The House of the Four Winds by Mercedes Lackey and James Mallory. I'm a fan of Mercedes Lackey. She's written some things that I very much enjoyed. I have on this channel a review of the Hunter series that she did. That's been a few years ago. That was in 2018, I think, that I did that. So that is far back in the reviews here on this channel. But I can highly recommend The House of the Four Winds. I can recommend it as part of my clock reading challenge for 2025. That's right. It's got a 4 in the title. You guys might know that I did the clock reading challenge in 2024. I failed. I did fail. There were 2 numbers I didn't get to, 11 and 8, 11 and something. Anyway, this year I'm doing it again. And I'm so glad that I'm doing it again. I'm glad because I've had this book on my shelf for a little while. I think that I pulled it off the shelf to use in the clock reading challenge last year. I think that I was going to do that, but because I had a different number 4 that I did get to last year, I just held this over for this year. And I'm glad that I got to it because I enjoyed this story very much. I mean, it had everything. It had pirates, and it had magic, and it had a princess who was pretending to be a prince. Well, at least a guy. It had sword fights. It had shapeshifters. It had monsters. You guys, a little bit of everything. All kinds of good stuff. I can highly recommend. I'm not going to give away any spoilers though, because I want you guys to read it. That's it. Let me check. Let me check the notes. I think we went over everything we needed to go over. I don't want to give away too much. So yeah, there you go. That is all thumbs up for pirate stories with magic. And thank you so much for tuning in.